Welcome to your Accessing Personal Genius. My name is Andrew Bryant, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you here this morning. It's my job and as I said, great pleasure to welcome your trainer. And many of you will know this trainer through his many, many books. Others of you will know him for his contribution to the fields of cognitive behavioral science and of neuro-linguistic programming. But what you may not know is his commitment, his care, and his compassion in training this material. And I will want to let you know that this man will pursue and be persistent and passionate about you getting your outcomes from this training today, tomorrow, and the following day. So without further ado, I would like you to give a very warm welcome to my friend and colleague, your trainer, Dr. Michael Hall.
This is our first day of Accessing Personal Genius, and I hope you're here to access your personal genius so that what we're going to do is to be accessing states that we'll bring to our states. We'll be setting frames of mind, the kinds of frames of mind that will make that personal genius possible. You interested in that? That's what we're going to do, and I'm really excited. You probably already know that this training is a training inside of a training. Around you are 32 people who have come here to become trainers in neurosemantics, and inside of this training, they've been here 8 days, and now this is a training inside of a training where we're going to put them to the test to see if they can coach you to access your personal genius. Now, of course, as we get started this morning, probably we need to define what this word genius means and how we're using it in this particular training. So as we get started, I'd like you to think about genius in 4 or 5 terms. These are some of the prerequisites of genius. One is focus. The ability to take your mind, whatever attentions are going on, to focus your attention to something. Genius involves that concentration. It also involves a sense of singularity, so you don't have to double track in your mind, but you're all there with your sensory acuity, your awareness, and your playfulness. So genius also involves a committed state where you're engaged, just totally and completely engaged. And when you're there, the world goes away. Time goes away. Sense of self goes away, and you're present. You interested in that? In the next 3 days, we are going to put that together as we access one state and another state and another and bring them to our self and whatever we're doing, setting some frames of mind so that we can make that happen. I began learning about accessing personal genius and these prerequisites of genius when I studied from Judith DeLosier and John Grinder a number of years ago in their book Turtles All the Way Down. And they listed 3, 4 prerequisites of genius. We've added 10 now. So we're going to go through patterns in the next 3 days, today and the next 2 days, 14 patterns that we will put these prerequisites on so that the gestalt, the thing that is more than the sum of all these parts will be that ability to step into the right state. Wouldn't you like to have that under your control so you could turn it on and turn it off at your command? That is what accessing personal genius is all about. So that when I need to be in state and engaged with whatever I'm engaged with, and it can be as simple as just talking to someone and being totally present. Have you ever talked to someone and you had a sense they weren't all there? I mean, well, they were there, and they were okay mentally, but they weren't all there. And isn't that most of our problems when we're trying to do something of importance, that we're not all there? A part of me is thinking about this, and another part is worrying and concerned about that. And it's like we're double tracking, triple tracking, tracking 17 things, multiple tracking, and we're not all there. Personal genius is being all there. And when you're all there, then all your resources are available. And isn't that a great experience? Because then it feels like you're in the zone. So another way of talking about personal genius and what we're going to build up in these 3 days is getting in the zone. Athletes talk that way, and if you've been watching the Olympics here the last few days, you can see people getting in the zone. And sometimes when they get in the zone, world records, Olympic records are broken because they're all there with all their resources. So that is our direction and focus in these 3 days. And you've got some really excellent coaches to coach you through these patterns. And what we're going to do is exactly that. We're going to pick out, and in your manuals, there's a page where it talks about the 10 variables. The 10 pieces that we're going to add, that when we add these things together, it's going to create something more than the sum of the parts. It's going to create this gestalt that we call being totally present. Now, another way to think about this is what Fritz Perls said. Fritz Perls, from whom NLP in part came from, said that sometimes the problem with us is that we need to lose our mind and come back to our senses. We need to lose that meta-mind with all of those things that's going on up there so that we can come back and with our eyes and ears and senses be in the moment. Now, the way we lose our mind is to set some frames that allow us to get lost in that engagement. So we'll lose that mind, and that mind then can actually create the freedom to get in there and just turn loose. So do you have something, some place, some engagement that you would like to get lost in? So that when you're there, you are there. A number of years ago, after I found this pattern in 1995, I took the metastating process and started doing that with this concept of accessing personal genius and the prerequisites of genius. At that time, I only knew 3 or 4 of the ones I found in the book. And so I started running that with myself around the subject of writing and research. Because I had found for years, and it had been a painful experience, that I'd sit down to write, had something in my mind, and I had some ideas, and I'd sit down and go blank. Writer's block. And the first book I ever wrote took me 8 years. And it wasn't a fun experience because things got anchored. Once I ran that pattern, and I can tell you that once I've run that pattern, I have not had writer's block since. Because when I sit down, I'm there. And it's not that the intelligence increased. It's not that I knew something I didn't know before. It was just that I was more present to both the reading and the writing. And so since then, I've been writing 3 or 4 books a year, writing 50 articles a year, writing a couple prefaces a year, writing a couple training manuals a year. It has just turned it loose. So what do you want to get out of this training? Because as we begin, one of the things I've learned about metastates is that if you become very intentional, if you decide at some of the higher levels of your mind that here is what I want, here's my purpose, here's my agenda, here's my direction, here's what I want, and you commission that intention, it will align your attentions to do service to your highest intentions. So as we begin, we're going to come back to this a time or two in this training. As we begin, what's your intention? If you were to identify, what do you want to walk out with 3 days from now? What do you want? There's two main objectives I have in this training. One is to introduce to you metastates as a model. So one of the things, maybe it'd be one of your objectives, is to learn the metastates model. We're going to spend 3 days and go through 12, 13, 14 patterns that are metastate patterns, and that may be your objective. The other main objective I have is to introduce to you the process and the patterns for accessing personal genius. So that may be a goal. But with that, there may be some other goals. Because if you can manage your state, and if you can manage the states that you have about your states, you could really have some top-notch state management. And that might be your goal, to really develop better state management skills. And if you can develop state management skills, to turn it on, turn it off, have your states instead of your states having you. Does anybody know that one? Your states.